Hey, what's up, everybody? My name's Andy Piazza. This is my talk, Career Hacking Tips and Tricks to Making the Most of Your Career. This is a talk I gave at B-Sides Nova 2020. Fortunately, audio video didn't work out here, so I'm going to re-record it here for you. Hopefully pass on some good information. My background, I'm Chief Evangelist for FIA LLC. We do cybersecurity. I'm also the Director of Operations for B-Sides Nova. I'm a cyber threat analyst during the day with some experience in counterterrorism and counter narcotics operations. I'm really passionate about information sharing and team building and problem solving. I really like mentoring folks and watching them grow. Absolutely love getting into teams and documenting out processes and building out mature processes and just really working with teams to do cool stuff and be better at what we do every day. Right. This is really, you'll see I'm kind of really passionate about that and talk about that throughout these slides. There's all my stuff for social media, right? I'm on Twitter as Killer Grizz, also on LinkedIn, and I write a bunch on Medium when I get a chance to. I've got a couple articles. So today we're going to talk about our, building a strong network, professional network, right? I'll leave the IT building, a network building to somebody else, but effective personal development, right? How do you grow yourself and your own skill sets, and when to move on in your career or move up in a position. So up front, we'll talk about building a strong network, right? This is all about filling in your skills gaps with the help of some friends, right? Some teammates or folks on other teams. You got some areas you need to beef up on. You can work with them or you can use their skills, right? Knowing, how to build a strong network of folks that you can rely on so everybody can be more effective. That includes, filling in their skills gaps with your own skills, right? And then, just engaging others and being positive. So, let's start there with, attitude is everything. We've got this positive approach on the left side. Old Army saying, sorry, improve your foxhole every day. All that really means is, find small ways to improve your situation, improve yourself, right? That could just be, leveling up as we talk about some getting into new skills, or it could just mean, cleaning up around the office, right? Don't leave your desk a mess, or, helping somebody else out. Just the small things that make everything better in your daily life, right? Just improve something small. Engaging with other folks, just being a sponge and just learn from them. But most importantly, as you're learning from other folks, respecting their time. Don't flood the work chat with a bunch of questions or overload them, right? You want to be collaborative and engaged, but you don't want to just, be the sponge that sucks up all their knowledge. You want to be able to contribute back. And really importantly, don't hover around folks or, hover in the chat too long. You start to distract other people. People are passing on information and they're willing to teach you. That's awesome. But, 2 to 3 hours standing at their desk and learning a completely new skill, they're not your teacher. Just be respectful of their time, right? Saying hello to people in the hall is a crazy idea. Talk to other teams, right? You got a kitchen area with a coffee machine. Talk to folks that you never met before. Say hi and just engage them. You never know if you're going to be sitting across from the table from them, a couple weeks later at a project meeting, and they're going to remember the smiling face, right? And be more willing to work with your team. Obviously, on the negative side, don't be that person that, I'm just here to, for the 9 to 5 or just getting paid or I'm not here to make friends, right? Or being that person, everybody sucks, he sucks, she sucks, they suck, you suck. I'm awesome though. That may be one of those signals we'll talk about moving up in your career, is when you start to just kind of be a little too stuck in the mud, right? It may be a good sign time to move on. If everyone's the problem, then maybe you're the problem, right? So just knowing when it's been your time, but just not having that attitude, right? You want to be positive. Right, attitude is everything. You want to be that guy for your area of InfoSec, stolen from Twitters. Go give them a follow or at least credit for this great meme. Engaging others with this technique, one up, one down, one left, one right. No, it's not the true Konami code. More importantly, it's about, learning the skills of the folks around you or the needs of the folks around you, right? If you're a SOC analyst, understand what the incident responders need to be effective in a ticket so you can get them that information up ahead. That will not only help them be more effective when they get that ticket, but may help you move up in your own career. As you can see, you can show that you're able to mature and take on additional responsibilities, or you understand what they need above you, right? Understand what your boss needs to be effective in their role so that you can provide that information ahead. But even the team next to you, right? If you're sending or requesting sample analysis from the malware team, understanding, what the malware team actually does and what they need. So, just be like, hey, can you pull down a sample of blah, blah, blah. You can actually be like, hey, can you pull this hash? We saw it in an email, giving them the information that is relevant. Understanding the roles that still left you to the right of you, up and down, right? Very important. It really helps you understand how you can be more effective in your own role and make them more effective. Contributing to other folks' work, right? Be the person who's willing to sit down and help somebody else, right? If they're looking for volunteers on a project, sometimes it's best to be that person that volunteers. Engaging with the content developers, right? If you are working on GitHub or Medium article and you enjoy somebody's project or something they've written, engage with them, say something to them. Reach out to them on their Twitter handle. I'll say I write articles on Medium. I absolutely love when people not only give me kudos, but I absolutely I love when people engage and have additional ideas to build on mine. I think it's really cool. And being selfish here, I'll throw that in my own talk, right? Engage with me and tell me, but engage with other folks that you enjoy their work and build on their work, right? If it means something to you or helped you with your career, say something to them. Having an attitude of gratitude, right? We're going to talk about here in a minute, sending strategic thank you notes, but knowing when to say thank you, right? You're in a project meeting and saying thank you to someone that's been challenging in previous projects or even in that project, saying thank you in front of everybody and finding something specific. Hey, I really appreciated when you were able to knock out blah, blah, blah. In front of everybody is really going to help tear down some of those barriers, right? And you want to be sincere about it. As much as we love Ron Burgundy over here, you actually want to be more sincere than him. Other than his great mustache, right? But you want to be able to identify those things. It'll not only will help you just be a more positive person, but it'll help tear down the barricades between you and another team. Is if you go out of your way to find those things that you can be appreciative of and call them out, right? Instead of pulling somebody off in a hallway and just one-on-one, hey, really thanks for that, and all quiet. Hey, across the table, that was awesome, great work, right? Calling them out, praising in public, kind of a thing, right? Here's a great example, right? Working on somebody else's or building on somebody else's skill sets and giving them credit. My good friend, I call him the professor. He helped me break apart this wall of text that would have been a giant paragraph to you. He peer reviewed my slides. He took his own personal time, and I really appreciate that. And he helped make this great quote from How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. He took this really great quote and broke it into the two halves and really made it visual. I really appreciate his help with my slides overall. But really, this slide, every time I go through the slides, I see this one, I think of him. So thanks, Professor. You made it look awesome. Again, true appreciation, not flattery. This is really good quotes. Read the difference. I absolutely love this one. So here's those strategic thank you notes. It's really cool when someone is appreciative to you and says thank you to you. It's really even more powerful when someone tells your boss what a great job you've done. So I've sent these. I usually go out of my way to try to find out who somebody's manager is or their lead and try to send them this note or a note like this, because when that rolls downhill that, oh man, hey, my CEO comes over and is like, hey, the client told me you were doing a really good job, Andy. That's a lot cooler than the client just going like, hey, good job in the hallway. Like, they took the time to write this email and send it over to my boss. Maybe I get a cup of coffee out of it, but just that additional level of involvement is so rewarding to the individual. So I try to do this frequently with other teams. I try to go out of my way, identify them. Sometimes I'll ghost write this email and kick it over to my manager and be like, hey, you should send this over to them. They're the manager of so-and-so. They really helped us in this project. This will tearing down those walls between other teams and making a more collaborative environment. This will level up your skill set. This will allow you to lean on other teams to get projects done, because they are going to know that you're appreciative, and that there may be a reward in the fact that you may tell their manager that you're appreciative. This is all, again, being sincere. This isn't, just trying to level up and, make you the best career in the world, but really trying to bring up the whole team. This is a great method of doing that. I highly encourage people to start writing thank you notes, send in a quick email. On top of that, celebrating the team's wins, really stressing the team's wins, not me and I do awesome things, blah, blah, blah. No, really want to stress the we and the they. And, even if it's simple, send an email when you're finished, doing a project or giving an update to the boss. I like to just add hat tip at the bottom to another analyst that helped me out, right? One of the biggest contributors or something. I'll say everybody worked on this, but, special hat tip to this person, right? But writing these team wins, I'm actually talking about a specific email format I came up with on my previous team. It was just real quick 3 to 5 sentence, the kind of the 5 W's. I always wrote them from the team's perspective, not my own. And just talk, just real quick, this is what we did. This is why it was a win, right? What the accomplishment was. Not only is that great, and they put something in your boss's email that they're able to forward up to their boss, right? And they're able to trickle that even higher. That does really good for your own manager, right? Your own manager is always looking for those kind of stories to show that their program's doing well. But it also is great if you pull those out, throw them on the share drive somewhere, or archive them in your email. These make great little vignettes to add to monthly briefings or leadership briefings, or how's my program doing? Instead of just being like, oh, we built 30 widgets, You're able to say, we built 30 widgets. Oh, and we had this collaboration win the other day where we shared this product and another agency came back and said they enjoyed it and they had additional information, right? If you're able to have those little vignettes, it goes a really long way, and it's a lot better than just sitting in a leadership briefing and hearing numbers all day, right? So really, really important. Here's just a quick template, just like the thank you note. Here's a team win template. Real quick example. It could be something completely different. It could just be a ticket that you closed out. If you're a SOC analyst, you were able to close out a ticket faster because engineering team was able to help you out and get something to you faster than they normally do. You could write this up. Hey, on this date, we were working this ticket. Engineering did an amazing job. We were able to knock it out, and we were able to prevent 5 infections. Whatever magic you add into this email, you send that up, and guess what? Now you've got a team wins and a thank you email to another team. Send it to both of those managers. That's a really great way to engage another team. Sorry. So let's talk about leveling up yourself, right? You built up your team, you built up your great network, but you're part of that network. Your team needs to be able to rely on you as well. So let's talk about how to build your own skill set. First off, knowing where you're going is pretty good. Credit to the Art of Manliness podcast, and their website's got all kinds of great information about leveling up. This article about 7 habits, beginning with the end in mind, really good resource. But really, what I bring it up here is to think about building out like a career map. You're not going to hit every hurdle, or you're not going to end up in the ideal job that you wanted, right? We're not all soldiers and firemen that we thought we were going to be when we were 5 or whatever. I mean, some of us were soldiers once, but understanding that you're setting that career path, you may not necessarily follow it, but it's a nice guide to get you to where you're going. May be completely different than the end, but what are some of those maps? So here's a good example, right? Typical career path through the SOC from MITRE's 10 effective strategies to build an effective SOC or something. Sorry, it's all on the web. You can internet that one. But here's a really good example of how to navigate up through the SOC, right, as you progress up through your career. Another great map to consider is the cybersecurity domains. This gentleman's got this version 2 out here on LinkedIn. I recommend you give them a follow. I really like this because people ask, oh, how do I get into InfoSec, or I want to be able to make a change into this area. Like understanding that information security or cybersecurity, whatever you want to call it, is huge, right? There's so many different skill sets. There's so many different mindsets behind it, right? You could be a checklist type of person. You could be an analyst. You could be an engineer. There's so many different mindsets and skills that are required. Understanding what that looks like across the field and saying, I started over here, in vulnerability management on the left in this lower yellow area, but I really want to get up into operations. Like, how do I move over there? What are some of the things I need to do to get over there? What are some of the roles that I could look for? What are some of the certifications or education or the teams that I could go talk to and just meet those other teams, right? There's so many different ways you can move your career in InfoSec, but having a general map in mind and understanding where you want to go is kind of important to get in there. Another great tool is the NICE Security Framework. National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education. NIST put together the NICE framework. US Cert's website has an amazing tool where you can go look up the name of the role that best suits you, and you can pull up these knowledge, skills, and abilities. If you're familiar with government at all, you're probably familiar with the KSAs. One of the things I really like about that is kind of adding some more structure to the career field, but also one of the ideas that I've had is a self-assessment ideas. You can download the spreadsheet and it's got tab after tab. It's got all the roles broken out with all their KSAs. But you pull up your role and you export that out, and you think about giving yourself a self-assessment of like 1 star to 5 stars. 1 being the worst, 5 being the best of each one of these KSAs. And just kind of self-rating, right? Not telling anybody, just network traffic analysis, I give myself a 1. This other category, I give myself a 5. And then when you're all done, go into looking at your like 3 lowest scores, your 5 lowest scores, and picking those to work on for the next 6 months or 12 months or 3 months, however aggressive you are and however much time you have to study. Identifying those areas, and I've only got a 1 for knowledge of network traffic analysis. I'm going to pick up a book on networking and packet capture and packet analysis. I need to get better at that, and that's what I'm going to focus on the next 3 to 6 months. Or I'm going to try to get a Net Plus cert, or I'm going to just focusing on those skills. And then when you think you've leveled up, self-assessment, go down them all. Give yourself 1 through 5 stars, pick the next 3 lowest scores, and start again. So let's talk about learning, though, right? How do I actually learn? Well, most folks learn either through passive or active learning. Obviously, most of us actually learn through both methods, right? You want a good combination of both. So what's passive learning look like? It's not just listening to your professional or professor lecture approach. It could be listening to podcasts or audio books, or just running training videos in the background. You got a repetitive task you got to do, like washing the dishes, or you got something at work that's repetitive that you got to do where you don't really have to think about it a whole lot. Copy and pasting something over and over again. Running cyber area IT in the background or running YouTube in the background, and just picking up some basic knowledge as you listen into things. Not necessarily skills. You're not sitting down to do it. You're just passively listening, but you're getting a broader knowledge base. It's going to make you that much smarter when you hear those topics come up at work, and you'll just be that much more effective and have a better, broader understanding. Active learning, right? This is when you're going to sit down. You're actually going to engage with the material. You're taking notes. You're hands on keyboard. You're doing CTFs or flashcards. You're actually studying the material and you're really engaged. Understand that when we go over the next list, we're going to show I'm going to show some resources. Any resource could be active or passive depending on how you use it, right? So, and there's so many resources. Let's not get upset if I didn't list your favorite, but understand that you need to mark off that time on your calendar, stick to that time, and use a mixed method, right? Use both passive and active learning. So passive resources, of course, again, Cyber Area IT is a great one. Listen to podcasts. There's this URL, the awesome podcast list. And I'm pretty sure if you look for GitHub awesome anything, you're going to find an awesome list, whether it's awesome threat intel, awesome hunting, awesome podcasts. They're out there. But on the podcast front, I will recommend Darknet Diaries. Great podcast, great storytelling, absolutely amazing storytelling. Beers Vitalis is obviously always funny and relevant and keeping up to date on the latest fun in the threat and vulnerability space. Chris Sanders' Source Code is a really cool podcast, interviewing different folks from around the community, kind of listening to their origin stories, getting to understand, how InfoSec kind of grew and some of the backstories and some of the personalities. And of course, you can insert your own mega list of podcasts because that's an arguing piece in itself. Everyone's got their favorites. I will say one of my absolute favorites over everything else is Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. Call me a nerd, don't care. But you get like 9 hours of, World War I history, or I think actually World War I's like 15 hours, but absolutely amazing breakdowns. He's a great storyteller. And it kind of helps take your mind away from InfoSec. You can't just stick in InfoSec all day. You're going to burn out. So mixing up your material is very important. Getting into webinars, right? SANS got all their webcasts on their actual website. They've also got a bunch of their summit talks and different talks on YouTube. Black Hills is just dumping out material like crazy, right? They've done their active defense course recently. They've got their threat hunting course, and we're talking labs and slides. So that can be passive while you're listening to the audio. You get a chance to sit down, you can switch over to active and actually get into the labs. Absolutely thanks to John Strand and that crew for putting together all that material, but go check them out. And of course on YouTube, right, you can almost all the B-sides, if the talk was recorded, it's probably on YouTube, all from around the world. There's a lot of great material out there. Again, I mentioned SANS Summit talks, and AttackCon's got a bunch of great talks as well. On the active side, you can go on and on and on, of course, but obviously if you can get to a conference when we're let out of lockdown, get engaged in the CTFs. The CTFs are actually, capture the flags are absolutely important for networking and picking up your own skills. Hack the Box Online, overthewire.org, underthewire.org. Vim Adventures. This is another, hat tip to my buddy, the professor. He taught me about Vim Adventures as I was trying to learn how to use Vim, and I couldn't figure out anything. Vim Adventures is, like some cheesy knockoff of early, Zelda from, the late 80s. Move a little character around on the keyboard, or learning keyboard keystrokes from Vim, and it's pretty entertaining. And next thing you know, you've actually picked up some skills. You might actually be able to exit the application. It'd be pretty crazy, right? No, it's a great tool to actually learn it without being super frustrated that you can't edit a doc. So, recommend you check that out. All right, learn, train, and do methodology. There's a methodology I heard. I can't remember somebody's podcast years ago. I wish I could give them credit. It's really changed the way I've handled my own skills. But the learn idea is setting down an hour a week or an hour a month, whatever you can afford, or every 2 weeks, whatever you can afford, to learn a new skill. Since we've been on quarantine, I've been trying to learn Python. I'll get into the resources a little bit later on Humble Bundle, but I bought the Humble Bundle for coding for kids. Learning Python from a kid's book has been really helpful. It's written for Army grunts like myself, I'm pretty sure, or 12-year-olds, one of the two. But that's the skill I've been learning since we've been on lockdown, is trying to learn a little bit about Python. I'm a threat analyst. I don't necessarily need to know Python, but it can help me be that much faster at what I'm doing, that much more effective. I just keep beating up that word here, right? But that's setting down an hour a week, a month, whatever you can afford to do to learn a new skill that's tangential to what you do, but that can actually just help you a little bit more, right? Training, this is when you're sitting down and sharpening your axe. You should be training a repetitive thing that you already know how to do, right? If you're a guru at packet capture analysis and you've been doing network packet capture analysis for 20 years, I guarantee if you went out and looked at new resources or went through somebody's training that was produced in the last year or two, you would learn about a new tool or new technique that you didn't have 20 years ago. There are folks that are dropping scripts on GitHub that could take 4 hours and make it 5 minutes. Train a skill that you think you already mastered. Repeat it, right? Just learn, go look for new material or just train the basics, right? This is in the Army, we used to call it sergeant's time training. We would try to do it once a week where you just pick up a regular skill that we already all knew and we would go back to the basics and just walk through it, and crawl and walk through it, right? And just, it makes you that much more effective to sharpen that skill. Won't beat that up too much, right? Do. This is a task that you absolutely must do, especially if somebody else is waiting on you or dependent upon you to do it. This is not necessarily something you find pleasure in, but it's a repetitive task or a required task that you got to do. Sometimes you just need to put that on your calendar to do it. I'll give you an example. When I was on a team previously, my job was to review everybody else's writing before we would share our products. I also had a lot of meetings and other fun projects I was a part of. I didn't necessarily want to sit down and peer review other people's writing. One, people get pissed off when you mark up their documents. Two, it's just not a whole lot of fun to go look for commas and periods. I'd rather go look at the analytical problems, right? But I had to put that on my calendar because my client didn't get to publish products if I didn't sit down and do that. So I had to put that on my calendar actually every day, where I would spend my first hour of my day reviewing folks' products and getting them edits back. It was something that people relied on. I didn't like doing it, but I had to do it. If you're a manager and you got to do timesheets, or you're the person that updates the distro list or an access list, putting it on your calendar for once a week and just being like, is there any updates? No? Cool, I got 30 minutes back in my life. Or yes, okay, I'm going to knock this out real quick, right? Learn, train, do. Put these on your calendar, stick to them. I guarantee you'll level up your skill sets if you practice these things. All right, so reading is a critical skill. I absolutely do love my audiobooks, but I would rather sit down and read if I can. Eventually you're going to have to read something, right? So one of my best recommendations, obviously, is mixing up your material, not just work stuff. Get some fiction, some nonfiction, get some history in there. Just broaden your horizons, learn stuff, right? Really good tip, if you can get back into the real world where we're able to get out of our houses, go to your library and get a library card, or go to your library online to see if you can get a library card. If in the real world you walk in, get your library card, walk right back out, download the Libby app, put your library card in there, you get access to their audiobooks, ebooks, Kindle, all kinds of different material available through Libby. Absolutely amazing, free. You can actually do reciprocity from other states and other counties. I just actually last week got to add another library card, so it means I get thousands additional books I get access to for absolutely free. The other option or opportunities there is the Hack in the Humble Bundle. No, don't hack Humble Bundle. They're too good. Don't go hacking them. That's not nice. Buy the InfoSec bundle, right? They have a coding bundle and InfoSec bundle. Buy all the computer-related ones. There's also the video game ones. They do a bunch of other things, not just InfoSec. But what's cool is you can spend like $15 to $25 depending on the bundle, and you get a bunch of ebook PDFs. You can download them, and one of my, like I tell noobs, and I do it. I try to do it myself when I buy the new set. Read the intro chapter to each one of the books you buy. You get like 15 books. Read the intro chapter to each one of them before you go deep diving. Then read the intro paragraph or two until it gets too technical and you get lost for each one of the chapters. And then you can find the book that really interests you, and that's the one you can deep dive in. You can get more active in trying to practice. The reason I recommend that read the intro chapter and read the intro paragraph to each of the chapters methodology is that gets you a really wide base of knowledge and just makes you that much smarter on a bunch of things, right? As a threat analyst, I may not necessarily ever do full-on malware reverse engineering, but having the understanding of some of the common tools and terminology from reading, spending an hour reading one of these PDFs makes me that much more effective in communicating with those teams and getting them the right information, or understanding when I'm reading a malware report, right? This is just about broadening your skill set, so. So knowing when to move up or move on, we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, when everything sucks kind of a thing, maybe you. So, you really should be looking for, promotion or a new role every 3 to 5 years. This is assuming that you're doing the first two sections, right? You're invested in your network, you're invested in yourself, you're growing yourself, you're growing your network. Um, Last bullet's absolutely important, right? Going back to that first one. You can have the greatest mentors, you can have the greatest instructors, you can have the greatest bosses. Ultimately, it's your career. You can't blame anybody else, so you got to be doing those right things to be doing these things. One of the questions I like to ask myself when I start to feel a little stale in a role is, have I reached my maximum effective range? Again, that's another Army term, but basically, have I made it as far as I'm ever going to go in this role? Am I starting to feels like I'm solving the same problems that I already solved, or having the same arguments that I had before? Or, I'm just not finding the excitement in the role that I had. And is that lack of excitement? A couple of days is fine, or a couple of weeks even may just be a bad time. But last couple of months I haven't found joy. We need to start talking to our leadership about a new opportunity, right? That doesn't mean dropping your resume out to the interwebs and running from your company as quickly as possible. That means going to talk to your boss about other opportunities, talking to your manager about getting on other projects, or getting a new role, right? It may be click apply, go check out a cool company, wherever you can go. But it doesn't have to mean you have to leave your company. You could get promoted within your company or go to a different team within your organization. There's a lot of different opportunities. Just consider that though, right? Am I getting too stale? Am I not growing where I'm at? There's an absolutely amazing list of resources available already on the interwebs. I will point at Katie Nichols has a bunch of references in her own article she just recently dropped on Medium, talking about the difficult decision to switch jobs. She linked to a bunch of other resources. I think these other two actually were probably linked to her, or linked from her as well. Leslie Carhart's her entire webpage you should probably read, but this one, the Mega Mix for starting InfoSec careers, got a bunch of great resources, and so does Daniel's How to Build a Cybersecurity website career on his website. Go check them out. So much great material, so much great information and advice. Also great folks to follow on Twitter. All right, so recap, right? You want to build your strong network, both for yourselves, both for your own skill sets and to help them, right? Building a big team, strong team. That could be within your organization or outside your organization. Just knowing your network. How can I get things done? Who can help me out? Who can I help out? Mixing up your style of learning, training, right? Passive and active. Putting down that time on the calendar to learn, train, do. And knowing yourself, knowing what skills you need to plus up on, using this nice self-assessment model I talked about, or just kind of doing a survey of like, what do I need to get better at? And then of course, just be awesome and be good. Hopefully this talk helped. Please, engage with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you can find me. Love for your feedback. Thanks.